And I really feel like they're not getting a voice. There's a lot of things that are being said in this newspaper. Our newspaper said about 30 people were at the rally. This Jacksonville paper said there were about 100. And I was there, I counted 34, including the commissioners and the mayors that were there. I just feel like everybody's not being treated fairly, and it's been there for 50 years. It's a bigger world. There's a lot of things going on that it's more than just a fishbowl. One of the things I hear is it's a healed system, but it's drained down every 3, 4, or 5 years to let all the sediment flush out and kill back the invasive plants. They spray with herbicides. Hundreds of acres of water lettuce was sprayed last year. I have pictures of it from before and after. All that settles down into the water column. It's just, how is that affecting the water quality? I just hope that this thing with Jacksonville, I'm on the board of PCEC. We advocate for restoring the Ocklawaha. We didn't know anything about it either. It was as much news to us as it was to you. Maybe some of you got wind of it, I don't know, but we didn't know anything about it. So we kind of felt like we should be included. So if you forget what the people in Jacksonville are doing and bring it to a local level, I do feel like there are a lot of opportunities. There are lots of springs right out from Kenwood. If it was restored, it would be a great place for real ecotourism. I don't think the bass tournaments can really be considered an ecotourism activity when the people are going out and pulling spawning bass off of the beds. Jody Dalzell wrote something about that the other day. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I do agree with that. When you're pulling the spawning females off the bed and taking them somewhere else, then what happens to that bed? And if you pull the males that are protecting the bed off, take them out, then that bed's destroyed. And as far as economically, I'd like to see the real numbers. Where's that 14 million coming from? You really can't count the Bassmasters tournaments because they're not allowed to go into Rodman. So please keep an open mind and maybe even put together, like the landfill, a task force advisory committee with the various groups. And a town hall meeting would be great too. I heard that's in the works.
Thank you, Mrs. Chadwick. A town hall meeting is in the works, and it is not going to be a Putnam County town hall meeting. It will be for Putnam County there. And right now, the coordination of all of the regional leaders is basically the holdup, but we do expect this week to have at least the group dynamics worked out to the point that we can have a date that will be very well publicized. It is very crucial for this board of legislators that yes, we do have an open mind. That is primary and is of utmost importance. However, it is also equally important that we do not react to all of the things that are happening. I was in a chamber meeting yesterday. I'm scheduled to meet with the chairman, Mr. Davis, tomorrow, and I can promise you this one thing. Any meeting that I have with any of those officials is a logistics meeting that is designed solely to pull us together in a public setting so that all of our community will have opportunity to at least hear what's going on and to be made aware. That is really the impasse that we're at right now, is that the very county who is being discussed was not invited to the table. So as a result of that, we're hearing everything that the general public is hearing, and not that everybody needs to hear something different, but it just would be nice to know that not only is someone in your house, but they're in your master bedroom. It's just nice to be nice. And so they have given us verbal apologies and things of that nature. However, I think that the dialogue and the open mind discussions are next. And so we will certainly keep our community abreast and aware of the developments. None of us individually can go out and crack the whip and make some things happen. That's not the way the local legislative Putnam Countyans is set up. So we're not going around individually trying to wave a magic wand. It will be a public setting. And thank you so much.
Can I ask one more
Yes, ma'am.
question? Things that are being stated, like the downstream area of the dam, all the proposals for restoration that I've heard of, all of that could stay in place. The fishing docks, the boat ramp, the restrooms, where the rally for Rodman, Save Rodman are being held, that's the natural level of the river. So all of that would stay in place. And this, part of this article, they're fishing downstream, all of that would stay there. I don't know if people realize that that doesn't have to change. What they like about that downstream area where you can fish from the banks, that would all stay the same. There would actually be a lot more bank fishing areas which are utilized during the drawdown. Lots of people go out there. I live 7 minutes from Kenwood. You can hardly get a parking spot out there during the drawdown.
Thank you again so much for your input, and just stay tuned to this station. Thank you. Any other public comments? That is general. Please come, Mr. Spells. Good morning.
Good morning, John Spells, 106 Citrus Lane. I would like to ask a question to all of you. Y'all are more like responsible for clean air, clean water and all. Am I wrong or right?
Depends on,
Is y'all responsible to make sure that we got decent drinking water, clean air and everything? Well, my main thing is that nature trail that they're working on. Ever since they done 207 and stockpile all of that dirt on that railroad bed, between me and the people in that neighborhood, we've been getting flooded out. Now, they keep trying to tell me that the water level is normal, but my neighbor can't even go on the side of her house between, like this rain we just had. Every time we get rain like that, water is underneath her house, and they're preparing that ground for putting a trail on instead of cleaning that ditch. Now, I'm quite sure everybody knows when they put that dirt there, it was supposed to have a low level of arsenic. Everybody in that area is on well water. And with that water backing in, I've been hauling dirt trying to build up around my pond, because every time it get in my fish pond, it kill all of my big fish. And it's been a round and around circle for the longest. And I wish someone would take time to find out what are they gonna do about draining the ditches. One of the farmers had to dig a ditch along the edge of his potato field because he couldn't get that water out of his field. And I know for living there over 40 years, we never had the water problem that we've had. And every time we get a lot of rain, my place back up. I have to move my cows elsewhere because with them walking and all that water, they just turn everything into a mud hole. So if y'all would take the time and just ride down that trail right where the power line cross and look at the amount of water that's in my neighbor's yard, due to the fact that when they put that dirt there, they didn't put no filter cloth or anything up, and they had the dirt so high they couldn't clean the ditch, and all they did is come back and got what they wanted. And around the curve out of sight, that dirt is about 15 foot up in the air. And I don't know what, I got to get my well water tested, but my thing is, I don't see how the county would have went along with them bringing that contaminated dirt and putting it in an area where everybody is on well water. So if y'all could take the time and try to find out what are they gonna do about the drainage problem before they put the asphalt down.
okay, where actually is the pile? Where specific?
The whole railroad was all the way past the
No, I'm
road.
saying, where is the mound?
The mound that they didn't remove is around the corner out of sight. But the thing about it, they left that dirt there so long, it eroded into the ditch around the trees, and it's done stopped the natural flow of the water. Now it's backing up on everybody on that bottom end.
But if someone was going to the location, is it off of Cracker Swamp Road? Is it off?
It's on, if you drive right on off of Cracker Swamp towards the power lines and just ride around there and look, and you can see just how the water backed up. Every year I lose fish. When the weather get real hot, then we get a lot of rain and that water come in on my place, I lose fish in my pond. And you know, I've been going round and round in circles with DOT, so I wish someone else would step in and do something, because I feel like that's something I shouldn't have to do, because they shouldn't have never put it there.
Thank you, Mr. Spell.
All right.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. You do not have to fill out the public comment cards, but it does help our deputy clerk. It's fine. No, you're fine, Mr. Boston.
Jim Boston, 168 Kingfish, Pomona, Lake Como.
Good morning.
I was in here last summer, and I wanted to see Nancy, but everybody's got their days, they're not in here. But Chip Leibel is here, and I brought him a bunch of newspaper clippings about how they're doing their dump and their trash stuff up in Haywood County. It's in Haywood County, North Carolina. And I thought it was quite interesting. Like I said, I have no idea what the right way should be, sell or do, but they've done a bunch of things, and I'm telling you, they're happy. In fact, I'm looking to buy up there, and 2 places I went, I asked the people, how's your trash work? Oh, you take it down to the place down there and you dump it in. But I go to them because I live in the campground down there, and it's kind of neat. They set up a thing, big old thing, and you put all your recyclables. You don't have to separate your recyclables. They just tell you, milk jugs, and you throw them all in there, they take it someplace. And then they have another one for trash. And I think that's pretty neat, but I think, I don't know if they follow up in other counties and how other people do it, but they got a pretty good deal up there, and I have no idea what's right or wrong, but I brought the latest article, of course, it was September 5th. I've had it for a while, and how the prices are and what they do. I don't know if it's better than what we do and all, but I think they only have 28 of those recycle places where you dump your trash off, besides going to the big thing, one exit down on 40. But I don't know if you passed the other stuff around I give you, those other newspapers I gave you last summer?
I did, and
Okay.
It's been a lot of information from now to then.
Well, this is
but
another one, and I hope to give it to Carl, and he could.
What stood out, Mr. Boston, was the fact that I did a little research on it and found that there is little to no curbside pickup in the mountain areas of North Carolina.
You know,
And that's the difference between us and them.
well, you know, maybe it's about time some of the people in Putnam County, we start doing something for ourselves. There's no reason we have to have, you put one of those somewhere, you know, I think 25 or 28 would be enough. But our problem is here, we want everything put in our hip pocket and we don't want to do nothing. And just like I read today, we got 9.5% Palatka City does. People that don't have to pay tax for the housing, public housing crap. Most of it's 1% throughout the state, but not Putnam County. It's time we said, hey, there's a bunch of stuff we have to do to help ourselves. And about time we do it in Putnam County. But read that article, study up. It might not be no good, but I think one thing, for a county that's the poorest in the state, we sure want to pamper everybody. Let's everybody get up and do a little something. I thank you.
Mr. Boston, thank you for your words of encouragement to us. Our deputy clerk will make copies so that all the commissioners will have access to this article. And we certainly do welcome the comments there, because we do need to do better, and that we is all of us. And thank you.
Brian, maybe, I know I work for a farm life, and if we found out something worked better in the south end of the state, we'd use it up here, vice versa. Maybe that'd help out.
Best practices model is always good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Dr. Malash, I do have a card for you. Is your comments related to the?
Yes, sir. Should I come back?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. If you're speaking related to something that's on the agenda, we will give you opportunity at that specific time. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Robert Bly, Pomona Park.
Morning.
Normally I come up here and I give you a lot of grief. Today, gonna be a little bit different.
Okay.
Today I wanted to come up here and say, I have a newfound respect and admiration for the Board of County Commissioners. I have lived here nearly 20 years and have never felt confident about the ability of the Board of County Commissioners to find ways to take care of big issues, especially big issues, but even smaller issues. And recently, I have gotten a new confidence from Mr. Flagg that allows me to sort of kick back a little bit, not worry so much, and not dig so deep. And I have been digging deep. You're not off the hook, but for right now, I see things changing. Even in the agenda that was put out today, I saw information in there that I wouldn't normally see. So that gives me a new confidence in the way that we're going. And I just want to say I appreciate all of the effort of all the commissioners, and especially you, Mr. Flagg. Thank you.
Mr. Blythe, thank you. It's very humbling for you to make those comments publicly to us. And we realize that everyone is not going to appreciate what we do. We were not elected to be appreciated at every meeting, But we do recognize and realize that what we do to get us to a point of progress sometimes is misread, but we are grateful for your comments, sir. And we will continue to press forward because we are not off the hook. Okay, thank you so much. Any other further public comments? Okay, we do have some specific items that will be forthcoming, and again, we welcome all of our citizens to communicate with us, talk with us, and not at us, and it certainly will cause everything to be productive. On the consent agenda, commissioners, are there any specific items that you want pulled for discussion?
No, sir, I don't have any.
I have none. I have none.
Okay. We do have Mr. Rick Haven here who would like to have some discussion on item E, and I believe his comments is related to the source of the funding. Mr. Haven, if you will come forward and ask you a specific question, that way I can take the complete consent agenda. I think it's just clarification or information that is requested. Mr. Haven.
Okay, I've been up here a couple times over the last year and a half or 2 years and asked about where the funding for the SHIPS programs comes from. And I've asked the board as a whole, and I've asked members of the board. I've never gotten an answer. I don't know who Mr. Rorson is, but we're gonna give him $10,000. Generally, you put in here what the emergency fund is for, with windows or kitchen or plumbing or something like that. There's nothing in here on this and any of the pages about what the $10,000 is for. We got two different incomes here. You got report one income of $15,538 and the other one $11,578. Which is it? Essentially it's saying he lives on Social Security. He gets more Social Security than I do.
Okay, Mr. Haven, let me just, if your main point is where
Where does the funding come from? Is it county funds? Because in the 2013-2014 budget, you guys gave away $460,000. In the budget passed in September, you raised that to budgeting $575,000. Where is the money coming from?
Okay, first of all, this program, which is the SHIP program, it has a caption of Putnam County because the eligible recipients are Putnam Countyans. However, it is a state housing initiative partnership, and the funds are state funds that are derived from documentary stamps. No Putnam County dollars are here. These individuals who make proper application, who go through what you would call a qualifying process. We don't qualify and disqualify. Actually, this program is administered through the Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council out of Jacksonville. They are the administrative group that deals with this particular issue. And I don't want to unfairly single out this particular applicant because everything we do is public record. And so this person has to expose their income, their assets, all of those things. That is just part of what has to happen. So rather than to zoom in on this specific request, I think your main concern is the source of the dollars. Am I right or wrong?
That's it.
Okay, documentary stamps. That is the source of these dollars for any person that qualify for SHIP funds.
In other words, when a property is sold in this state, and you have to pay for the little doc stamp, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then we just voted to take and give half the doc stamp money to Florida Forever program, so,
We can put you in touch with our legislative, delegation. Right now, we don't have a senator, but we do have a representative up there. But it is, we have to validate once they are approved as they become eligible, but none of the county's taxes that come to Putnam County for budget purposes is in this equation.
Okay, well, I suppose maybe that part of it is how the eligibility program. I mean, last year you gave $30,000 for a guy for a down payment in his house, and he worked at the Armory in St. Augustine.
Okay, for us to say that we gave, you can say that we pretty much approved the authorization, but they went through the eligibility process. And my thing is this, people make application every day for some type of benefit. And the honor system certainly has to be what they operate under. If it does not come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse.
Okay, well, I would like further information then.
Okay, Commissioner Harris.
I just wanted to point out that in the first paragraph, SHIP has a couple of programs, and this one is the emergency repair program. And in the first paragraph, it says that these funds are for roof repairs and kitchen repairs on the memorandum that you have in front of you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Haven?
No, if you would, I would like to talk to somebody specifically. I've called, I've emailed the SHIPS program. Nobody has ever responded.
Okay, we are making note of that, and we can get you in touch with the individual that is responsible for the eligibility for the specific citizens that are coming forth.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We have your contact information. You did not put your phone number on the card, but if you'll let us know how to connect with you, we'll certainly.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for Mr. Haven to go to a SHIP meeting and he can be introduced to the gentleman there?
I think he needs to speak with an official there and not going, their meeting is for eligibility. I
Right.
think that we need to make sure. Well, as long as,
I've been watching this for 2 years. It's a lot of money, and you guys are supposed to be stewards of us and our funds, whether it comes from our county taxes or whether it comes from our gas taxes, our real estate taxes.
Mr. Haven, if you're gonna continue talking, come back up here and we can talk, okay? Now, Mr. Harvey made a suggestion about you attending a meeting. My issue is this: if you're going to a meeting where they're discussing eligibility, and that's what you're going to do is to figure out who's eligible and who's not, then I don't recommend you going to the meeting.
No,
If
I
you
want to
want
know,
speak
I would
with-
want to know about the funding.
May I continue, please? If you want to know more about the program, they do have an office, and they do have competent staff there to address all of the issues that you are raising up. We have to be mindful as legislators. We have certain jurisdictions, and we have some things that come to us just for validation and just for approval. We have no authority to qualify a person. We don't go out soliciting or recruiting individuals for this program. The money will be spent, and it will be spent in the area that it has been designated by the state of Florida, not by Putnam County. So we will make the connection, and that's all we're asking you to do is make the connection, raise the issues that are of near and dear concern to your heart, and we will proceed.
All right, let me ask you one more question.
Yes, sir.
If you have no control over any of this, why is it even part of the consent agenda?
It is on the agenda because it is a part of the process that the applicants still has to come through the local jurisdiction. We have the authority to authorize or to approve things that we are not the source of the funds. That is just a part of our legislative duties.
Okay,
Okay? Thank you, Mr. Haven.
thank you.
Any other public comment? This time I'd like to entertain, entertain a motion for the consent agenda's approval.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Proper motion second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We're gonna take a 3-minute recess, and then we will come back to item 5.
I got one in my thing.
Call us back in session. Item 5 on the agenda is Dr. Eric Jump, who is speaking with us about community water fluoridation. I'm going to ask all that are concerned. We do have individuals that are coming to speak concerning this specific item who have filled out respective comment cards. This is not a rally. This is an information session, and we're asking all who do come Please respect the speaker that's before you, as well as the speaker who will succeed you. So we will start out with the person who requested to come before us, Dr. Eric Jump. And following Dr. Jump will be Ms. Faye Sparkman, Dr. Jerry Malage, Mrs. Mary Garcia, who is with the Department of Health for Putnam County. Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for this privilege to be before you in this incredible American process. It's quite amazing to see this. I'm here to represent the children, the dear children of our community. I am a witness every day of rotten teeth. That's why I'm here. I know that's not a scientific expression, but it does demonstrate what we're seeing. Just to bring everybody up to date, the last meeting that we had here, I presented what happened in 2011 with our city commission. The city commission elected, without input from any dentist or physician, to rescind the order to fluoridate our water, which had been fluoridated for many, many years. Not one dentist, not one physician, not the health department. They did not know that this had happened. I was the witness seeing what's going on in our community with all these kids with rotten teeth, room after room after room. And then I found out that we had taken fluoride out of our water. This is a basic foundation of health care in our country, and our county, our city, does not have this. So it's very much a basic health thing that we have that we absolutely must get back in our water. It's an embarrassment for our county. Public education, there are many, many advantages. We have one of the 2 A schools in our county, and these teachers and administrators are putting their all into helping our kids. One of the advantages of going to a public school is city water that is fluoridated, and we need to be helping our schools. I'm honored today to have with us an expert on fluoridation, Dr. Johnny Johnson. He is a Floridian. He's very passionate about health for our state, for our county, and for our nation. And he's here to present all the facts about fluoridation and to answer any questions that anyone might have. And would it be possible for him to give his presentation now? Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Johnny Johnson.
Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Good morning, and Johnny is perfectly fine with me. I am a pediatric dentist. Let me get my presentation up here, make sure I follow the instructions well. Not yet. Should do it. Yay, all right. I'm a pediatric dentist from Palm Harbor, Florida. I am a person that never got outside of my office and just got very angry when our county commission back in 2011 voted 4-3 to cease water fluoridation for 700,000 of our residents. And as a pediatric dentist and as a father, that was an affront to me. It was an affront to science, and it was turned out to be an affront to 68% of the county or the residents who elected to not put those 2 of those 4 back in the office again. So I had never gotten outside of my office. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak before you. Dr. Jump gave me huge accolades that I don't deserve. My reason for being here is to share with you the science behind fluoridation and the safety behind it. And on behalf of Mary Garcia with the health department also, who was very instrumental in having me come, I really appreciate your opportunity to let me speak. The presentation that I want to go over with you this morning is one that was lent to me by Dr. Jay Kumar, who was one of the 12 members on the National Research Council's evaluation of the EPA standards, a lot of words to say. They evaluate the water in this country at levels where it is naturally high. It affects 200,000 people in the entire country, and it's where it's higher than 4 parts per million. That's where they decided that it is the highest level it should be. Beyond that, it can affect their health. Below that, there are no health effects whatsoever. So every few years, this group gets together, and the last time they got together was 3.5 years of debate over the science on everything. So there's 2 groups. One is the Community Preventive Services Task Force, which you may be aware of. I never was. They're one of the 2 groups in this country. They're appointed by Congress to oversee all of the literature and do reviews of all of the reviews that have been done. They're not paid physicians or statisticians. They are the ones that give the dirt and cheap and the effective information that we all make our decisions on. And they actually provide community guides to communities on many, many health issues. So you may have seen those on your desk at some point. Disclosures, I have been allowed to speak as a representative for the Florida Dental Association, also Oral Health Florida, but primarily I'm here as a private practice pediatric dentist and here advocating for the health and welfare of all of your residents, adults and children, their dental health, and this head is attached to the body for their physical health. So why are we here? I'm sorry, I have to look at them up here because it's not on my screen. Why are we here today to talk about fluoride in your water, fluoridation? The birth of fluoridation in this country was 70 years ago this past Sunday. That's a huge anniversary for us. We've been fluoridating water since 1945, and I was in Gainesville and had a toast with my 2 daughters at a glass of water that's fluoridated. Gainesville was the first city in the state to fluoridate their water. Hallelujah. Why do cavities still matter? This young lady is not someone who got hit in the face. She has an infection with a tooth. Her eye is swollen. Her eye is swollen because she has an infection in what's called the triangle of death of her face, where that infection can go backwards into her brain rapidly and she can die. This child cannot go to school. They cannot learn. They are in pain. It affects her for her lifetime, and it's something that affects both children and adults. And yes, it can be life-threatening very easily if not caught rapidly. What can we do to help this young lady? Cavities are really the problem, and that's what she's having an issue with. 1 out of every 4 kids by the time they're 5 years old has cavities. And by the time we're into our 20s, I think it's 80-something% of us have experienced cavities in this country. Pretty sad. If it was a perfect world, fluoridation's not the only issue. We're talking diet, brushing your teeth, having a family unit where everyone helps to take care of things. But what can we do that takes no change in a person's behavior whatsoever? And that is where water fluoridation is a huge public health benefit. It's not the magic bullet, which we wish it would be. It's not an immunization. What I want to talk about is what the credible science says. Is there any debate about that safety or the effectiveness of it? And is there debate about savings in cost and human suffering? Again, community water fluoridation has been called one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century by the CDC, right alongside of seat belts and 8 others. It reduces cavities for both adults and children by 25% as a minimum over their lifetime simply by drinking the water. Drink your water, you'll have a quarter less cavities, they're less severe, and there's less of them. In this country, over 210 million people drink fluoridated water each and every day. We are almost at three-quarters of our population in the United States that has fluoridated water at optimal levels. In Putnam County, the one fact that I wanted to bring up is that one of the top reasons, some in the top 2, some in the top 10 in the state, that people go to the emergency rooms is for dental pain. And that dental pain drives them to emergency rooms. In Putnam County, it was over $800,000 was spent last year in their emergency rooms for dental pain. There was no treatment provided except antibiotics and pain pills. Now, that's a shame, but you're not alone. The whole state, it was over $130 million was spent on that. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. There are better ways to go about this. The science is really crystal clear on water fluoridation. It's been in use over 70 years now. Over 3,000 studies have been done and published papers on it. The overwhelming consensus is it's safe, it's effective, and it works. It's cheap, and it's the best way to get fluoridation to everyone. The way to the science is really the whole telling thing. There's not one single credible scientific organization in the world that opposes water fluoridation, not one. All of them fall on the side of, yes, it's safe, it's effective, and it works. So frankly, there really should not be any argument against it, but there are arguments that some folks would take. Every Surgeon General in the United States has endorsed community water fluoridation, including our state Surgeon General, John Armstrong. Debates on science actually take place in these areas, and I list two of them here. There are many areas where expert panels get together to discuss the science, the literature, what is the quality of that literature, what does it show, and then there's results. Are they agreeing with each other or not? Those two groups that are listed were the Community Preventive Services Task Force. Again, it was a blue ribbon panel established by Congress, and I think it was 1996, to look at community issues. And then the National Research Council, who specifically looks at the fluoride in drinking water that is naturally there in the United States. These are just a few of the groups that, there's a slew of them that do these types of reviews, but I only listed a few. You may have heard of the Cochrane, Bayesian, several other ones that look at issues. Is water fluoridation still necessary? Well, the short answer is yes. Dr. Kumar, in a article in the Journal of American Dental, or Advanced Dental Research, showed that you, in the community, when you start fluoridating the water, you drop almost 30% of the cavities. When you stop fluoridating, like Palatka did, within a short time, as Dr. Jump said, it comes up to 18% rising cavities. Eventually, it gets back to pre-fluoridation levels within 5 years. Another group, including Dr. Scott Tomar from the University of Florida and Susan Griffin at the CDC, they found 27.2% reductions in cavities in adults and children when you added fluoride to water. The findings of the Community Preventive Services Task Force is that community water fluoridation is recommended based on strong evidence of effectiveness in reducing cavities and across all populations, and that includes rich, poor, adults, and children. The evidence shows that the prevalence of cavities is substantially lower in the communities that have fluoridated water, and there is no evidence that community water fluoridation results in what's called severe fluorosis. The National Research Council also looked in that 3.5 years at every single possible effect of fluoride that naturally occurs in the water, not fluoridated water, but that naturally occurs at levels that are higher than fluoridated water. They looked at all health effects, including Down syndrome, thyroid issues, cancer, you name it. Ingrown toenails I don't think they looked at, but they looked at everything. The literature that they found that they could actually say, here are some things that we can look at, are 3 issues: severe enamel fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, and bone fractures at 4 parts per million of fluoride in the water. That's 4 milligrams per liter and below. There were no health issues that they found at that level. So the only issue was at below 4 parts per million was severe fluorosis. Now, what they looked at again was when it came down to 2 parts per million, severe fluorosis went away. Water fluoridation in this country, the recommended current level is 0.7 milligrams to 1.2 milligrams per liter of water. We're talking about 3 to 7 times that amount that they were looking at. So at the levels we have for water fluoridation in this country, as the Community Preventive Services Task Force found, there is no part of fluorosis that is severe. It is very mild, little white spots in the teeth that almost no one can see. This is what the teeth that are appearing on the CDC's website appear as. The first one is a normal set of incisors. Now, when you're looking at these, please remember, you're looking at someone's teeth magnified, dried, in a dental chair with a photograph. The next one to the right on the top row is questionable. Maybe there's a little white spot somewhere on it. Walking down the street, I guarantee you'll never see it. Very mild fluorosis. That's the next most common fluorosis that you will see. Mild is the next one. Again, the only thing you see is a little bit of white on the edges of the teeth. We call that snow capping. The next one is moderate. That is a very low amount, like 3% or less of the population in this country will have that. And severe fluorosis is X-stop because that does not occur at levels we're talking about in water. When you look at these teeth in this example, I would ask, you know, if you could tell the difference between, is there mild fluorosis in any of these? Do any of them have it, or do they all have it? And I did this with Dr. Jump and Mary Garcia last night, and they were saying one, maybe two of them. Well, the fact of the matter is, all of these teeth,
All four of them.
all four of them had mild fluorosis. So it boils down to, what do we choose? If you go into a community, and I do this, I have a place in Chiefland, and I go into town, I see teeth with folks in the grocery store, McDonald's drive-through that have the type on the left. Very sad, very unfortunate, and I'm not done with the state. I'm working around the entire state to get us 100% fluoridated. On the right side, you've got teeth that have a little bit of white spots, perhaps. That means they have great amount of fluoride in them to help prevent cavities, at least 25%, and less severe cavities. Well, if the science is so crystal clear, why do some people oppose it? Let's take a look at that. They are called internationally anti-fluoridationists, or folks that oppose fluoridation of the water. There are a slew of claims that are made against fluoridated water. Not a single one of them is based in credible science. Again, looking at that scale that I showed earlier, if there were any issues with fluoridated water, we would be the first ones screaming from the tallest mountain, knock it off. They claim that it causes cancer. Well, the fact of the matter is, in the National Cancer Institute, National Research Council, FDA, several other groups, including the CDC, say absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever. At least 100 million people since 1945 continuously have been drinking fluoridated water and have no health issues whatsoever. When you look at high levels that occur naturally in water, such as in China and in India, where they do have skeletal fluorosis, which is a crippling sort of bone disease, none of them have, which would be the most common type of cancer from fluoride, which would be osteosarcoma. So they have very high levels and no cancer like that. Osteosarcoma was raised as an issue. A 15-year study was done at Harvard, continuous study. It was reported midstream by a PhD student who took a subset of data, which they typically don't allow, and she found some indication that perhaps there was more osteosarcoma in boys than others. And frankly, when the study was completed, the study, after 15 years, said that is not appropriate. There is no increase in cancer whatsoever, and that's out of Harvard. The latest cancer study was out of Great Britain. It was a 25-year study, continuous study. And the one thing about public health programs is they've got great data information that is continuous. And they found not only was there no osteosarcomas, but there were no Ewing sarcomas, which would be two common cancers that you would expect potentially from fluoride in the water. You also hear that fluoride ions are different when it comes from the additives that are put into your water. Well, God only made one type of fluoride, and there's not more than one. So the CDC says that's absolutely incorrect. Let me skip one. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go as fast as I can here. And then there was another one where Harvard did a meta-analysis. This is gaining a lot of press time. They looked at Chinese studies that had done looking at high levels of fluoride that naturally are in the water at many times what water fluoridation would be in this country. It's not added to it, it's what's there naturally. It's also there because they burn coal that has high levels of fluoride in it, and it settles on their food. And they also drink a lot of black brick tea. What they found was that people who had high levels of fluoride had IQ deficits. Those in the control group, which is the levels that we have in fluoridated water, had normal IQ. As flawed as those studies were, as bad as they were in China, if you look at the real analysis is the control group is the same as us, no problems. This gentleman's one of the top, Gary Whitford, one of the top toxicologists in this country. He did a study where they looked at 230 times the dose of what we would normally take in. They gave it to rats, and they checked to see if those rats could remember where the cheese was. And the bottom line was they found the food.
Okay.
So. There's all, am I doing okay on time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm trying to go quite quick here. There's a claim that Mother Nature should know best, and she only has fluoride in it at such a low level that when we put it in the water, it's 250 times more than Mother Nature has in milk to babies. Well, following that same line of thinking, first of all, there are no issues with infants whatsoever who drink fluoridated water. If there were, Dr. Jump and the rest of us would be jumping up and down saying, let's cut it out. The fact of the matter is, Mother Nature does not place vitamin D in breast milk, and babies starting at 2 weeks, is it? 2 months, excuse me, have to be supplemented with vitamin D or they could have serious issues. So Mother Nature, God bless her, but she doesn't do everything, and that's why we have modern medicine to help us out. That's why we live longer. There's a claim that we should discontinue water fluoridation because 41% of children in the U.S. have dental fluorosis. Well, the dental fluorosis that they have is not severe. If you look at 4 out of 10 people, look at your own family and look at their teeth, just looking at them. If you see 4 out of 10 of them that have anything that you see that's gnarly looking, it ain't severe fluorosis. It is something else like a fever they may have had when they were younger, a traumatic injury. There's other issues from other countries. Someone moved where they had fluoride high in the water. You'll see that. But you will not see something that's discolored from optimally fluoridated water. So again, our choices are on the left or on the right. And the nice thing too is when you have a little extra fluoride in your teeth, you have less cavities. There's a claim that 97% of Western Europe does not fluoridate their water. Well, the words are chosen very carefully by the opposition. No, not everywhere in Europe can you fluoridate the water. They do not have the infrastructure everywhere that we have here. So water does not go to many communities from one source. A lot of them use wells, so they have their own water sources. But what they do have is fluoridated salt and fluoridated milk that they can use alternatively. If they used it all the time, religiously, you do get cavity reductions. One of the biggest reductions and causes of fluorosis in this country is children swallowing toothpaste. Fluorosis only occurs up to age 8 while the teeth are developing. As adults, we can't develop it. This is only in the first 8 years of life from swallowing toothpaste. And that's the #1 reason why we see it. The National Kidney Foundation withdrew its support of water fluoridation. Well, they did. They said they endorsed it before, but this opposition group sued them, said they were going to sue them if they didn't take their name off of it. So they caved, and they said, okay, but we don't have a position on fluoridated water, optimally fluoridated water. People can drink it who have kidney disease, and that's the bottom line. They also don't have a position on chocolate or maybe hair color. That doesn't mean that hair color is bad. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but it's semantics is what is being used in the opposition against it. They say that it only works on the top of your teeth and not systemically. Why do you need to swallow fluoride? Well, it does work. Studies show that it works both when you brush your teeth, when you use a fluoride rinse, when you swallow it, it comes out in the saliva around your teeth, and it constantly bathes your teeth with a low amount of fluoride that comes out in the saliva. And it's that constant bathing that helps us as adults not to get the kinds of root cavities that we get as we get older and get gum recession. The #1 reason that adults lose their teeth is because of root cavity issues. We're dentists, we're good at fixing things, but when you're trying to fix something on the back edge of a root, back underneath it, any dentist will tell you, we ain't that good. And that's the number one reason why adults lose their teeth, and fluoridated water helps them not to. That's why we have more adults living to their late stages of life with all of their teeth, including my dad, who's 92. Fluoride is an additive that's equivalent to forcing people to take medicine. Well, the courts have ruled that that's totally incorrect. Never has it been ruled against the law in this country or in Europe. Your water, overall, I did an average of all the wells that I saw on the state data. Your overall average of water background level is 0.18, and that comes from the lime rock that the water comes up through into your aquifer. In the state, it's about 0.2 parts per million everywhere. Needs to be 0.7 to be optimal health to your teeth, so it's a slight adjustment upwards. You can't manage the intake of fluoride. Well, first of all, there's no worry with that because there's no health issues. People don't drink gallons and gallons of water a day. You don't get anywhere near where you would ever have an issue with fluoride in the water that has been studied at high levels. 70 years of safety in the United States has been reported, as well as the EPA analysis shows that fluoridated water will protect against any potential adverse health effects. So there's nothing bad about it. The additive called hydrofluorosilicic acid is what is used to add to water since the 1950s. That has been the primary one. It's not acceptable, they say, because it has dangerous impurities like arsenic and lead. The fact is that the EPA regulates every single additive that goes into water. Every additive, whether it's for rust, whether it's for pH, whether it's for turbidity, every one of those has to meet current standards. And all materials, the rock that we get the fluoride from is phosphorite rock. It has some arsenic in it. It's not that it's added to it, it is in there. It is well below 1.2% of what the EPA says in a year that you can have. So it is not breaking any rules and well within standards. They say that there are better ways to deliver fluoride, give people bottled water in poor communities, give them toothpaste and toothbrushes. The fact is, there's no better way than water fluoridation. You simply pick up the glass of water and you drink it. Communities are putting an end to water fluoridation. I'm almost done. We have over 210 million people drinking it now. That is up in the last 10 years of about 18%. We continue to increase in our communities and community summaries, our communities that get fluoridated water. To summarize, fluoridation is safe, it's effective, it's the most cost-effective means to reach everyone with the cavity-fighting benefits. It benefits everybody regardless of age, socioeconomic status, education, religion. It crosses all barriers. It offers a great return on investment, and this is the one huge thing that communities get back from it. You invest $1 in water fluoridation, and it gives you a $38 return in cavity reductions in your community per person per year. In Pinellas County, we invest $200,000 per year in our water fluoridation system for 1 million people. That saves our community $7.6 million in dental repair costs every year. Now, if I had an investment return of that, I'd be jumping at it myself. There's nothing that I know of that can give that return. It's recommended by the task force, Community Preventive Services Task Force, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the World Health Organization, over 100 organizations in this world and more stand behind it. Nobody opposes it. It's the single most important commitment to a community that can be made to the oral health of children and adults for future generations, is what C. Everett Koop, Surgeon General C. Everett Koop said years and years ago. Last slides, the weight of evidence, nobody opposes it, and which would we rather see? Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I know I've emailed you some things as far as documents, and I promise you I have many, many more, but I didn't want to bore you.
Okay. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for such a comprehensive presentation to us. If you'll just stand by, we're going to roll through the others who have requested to come. And as I said earlier, this is not a rally. It's an informational session for us, and if you have comments and you agree with what someone else has said, just state that. Do not repeat the entire commentary. Thank you. Dr. Johnson, stay close, please. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barker.
I'm 30 against fluoridation. I don't know how many of you remember the 60s and had children born then, but my oldest daughter was born in 63, my next one was born in 65. And when they started school, we were told they had to have fluoride treatments. Each school nurse brought around a little cup with blue water in it. They were to rinse their mouth and spit it out. Well, a lot of kids started to get sick. So Pennsylvania stopped it. But in the meantime, all of us who are young parents, we listened to our county government just like you are. Today, it is proven fact that 1 out of every 9 people do have kidney disease that took these fluoride treatments back in the 60s. And so you all need to research and listen to those things. My husband put 5 hours in on making you those videos. They are children of today that are telling you about the fluoride treatments. And yes, there is arsenic in it, just like he said. So please just look at the video. It is an hour long. It's very informative. He took his time, and he wanted you all to see it before you make any kind of decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barkman.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Malash.
Good morning, everyone.
morning.
Thank you for letting me speak. I came here in support of fluoridation in our water. I wasn't planning to speak, so my remarks are sort of off the cuff, but basically from the heart as well. As you well know, I think most of you, that I'm a principal of an elementary school. We have a lot of young children. We, of course, are committed to making sure that academically that they learn what they need to do in order to be at a school that's an A school, by the way. But that's not all of it. You know, what's really important for children, of course, not that they're just learning, but that they're healthy. And I was quite flabbergasted when Dr. Jump sent me an email indicating that several years ago fluoridation had been removed from the water in our city. I had no idea, and I've lived here for 25 years. I feel like the science is very strong. Dr. Johnson was very clear in terms of his presentation. I grew up in Maryland. There was fluoridation then, and that was over 50 years ago. It just never crossed my mind that people were not putting fluoride in their water. I'm not a scientist, I'm an educator, but I would strongly recommend you to take into consideration what the science has to say, what we feel as educators. The PTA, by the National PTA, has come out with a very strong statement in favor of fluoridation in the water for children. Please take that under consideration, and we would like to have more of our children in school and not at the doctors or the dentists because they're getting cavities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Not yet. I have speaker cards, and I'm going in that order, but I will certainly call for you, Dr. Ms. Garcia.
Doing good, Bob.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
Got extra on here. I'm Mary Garcia. I'm the administrator of the Florida Department of Health in Putnam County. I just have for you a letter of support from the Surgeon General of the state of Florida about the importance of fluoridation and its efforts for preventing tooth decay in our children and the effects for adults. So I wanted to give that to you. I also, because there were questions about the safety and the effectiveness of community water fluoridation, I asked the CDC to put together a statement about the evidence supporting the safety and effectiveness of water for you. This was written for you exclusively for today's meeting, and I just want to read the conclusion, if I might. It just says, in a seminal report, Oral Health in America, a report of the Surgeon General observed a silent epidemic in dental and oral diseases, with those suffering the most found about the poor of all ages. The report affirms that community water fluoridation is an inexpensive means of improving oral health and that benefits all the residents of the community. So I wanted to leave those for you, and I thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you very kindly. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Diane Williams, Post Office Box 1774, Interlochen, Florida.
Morning.
I just have a comment. They're talking about the county. Do you know how many people are on wells here in the county? They're not going to get fluoride. My grandchildren started their life in Mandarin, then my daughter moved back here because she wanted them to come to a small county, her and her husband. They've been on well water since they were born. Maybe they're some of the lucky ones. They go to the dentist every 6 months. They've never had a cavity. My oldest grandson's almost 17. The next one is 10. The other one is 9. And what happens with these kids is the parents are not giving them proper nutrition. They eat junk. They drink soda. So I can't see putting the fluoride in the water here because it's just going to be for the city or the people that have city water. It's not, but the people that are on wells, I've been on a well since I've been here 28 years, and I haven't had a cavity in probably 40 years. So, I think it's a waste myself.
Thank you so much for your commentary on that, and thank you for the presentations. That is an issue in rural Florida. There is no what you would call countywide or community-wide public water system. There are a lot of private wells that exist. And obviously, in order for us to enhance public health as it relates to the issues that we have concerning the health by way of dental issues, education is key. And I guess my question is, how strong is the partnership between the associations that exist to assist us in this area and the public school district? Is there programs in all of our schools? I guess Dr. Jump, Dr. Malash, or Dr. Johnson, or Ms. Garcia. We want to strengthen the partnership. When I look at the original request, it says we're requesting your aid in addressing this sad situation of basic public health measures in Putnam County. The physicians and dentists in our community would appreciate meeting with us as well as the mayor's office. The truth of the whole matter is one thing that has to be done, that there has to be a targeting of the water system operators there. And then dealing with the water system operators, we will know what percentage of the population of our county is directly affected through the water systems. And then again, above all, just as was said just a few moments ago, it gets all the way down to the respective household. How are we educating and incentivizing the homes, inspiring the individuals to bring this subject as a basic subject in each household? What are we doing? Are people just getting by? And it's not just a child issue. Obviously, if we start early, and we're creatures of habit, we can get some things done. These concerns are very valid concerns, and I agree that there must be a strategic plan. There must be some strategy sessions in order to implement preventative measures. So has this presentation been made to the city of Palatka at all? Please come.
The next city commissioners meeting is February 12, and I believe we will be on the agenda. I just wanted to thank especially Dr. Johnny Johnson for his clarification of what community water fluoridation is. This is an amazing education for us all. And there are many, many ways of helping kids and adults prevent having cavities, to prevent them from having cavities. But my primary objective here is community water fluoridation. Dr. Johnson presents a very clear picture. Something that you all may be able to help me with is to clarify you and the health department as to what is the role of our health department in community water fluoridation. Is there a role? Should there be a role? And that, to me, is a very important question. And if you have answers to that, I would very much appreciate that, because I believe the health department, as across the country, throughout the history of our country, the health department is key to all of our health issues. And they can be a real determining factor in what happens if we have the proper leadership and the interconnection between, as you said, the Department of Education. I have spoken with the Department of Education, and we will be on their agenda to encourage them to institute a policy about fluoridation in our community, just as the Parent-Teacher Association has done. So if at any point you have more elucidation for me and what the health department, what the role is, what the health department should be doing, and how we can all interact with that, I would like to hear.
Okay. Thank you so much again. I'm going to impose again upon the Director of Health. I think this is a good logic subject, and I'm going to request that the subcommittee that's dealing with health issues there, that this be placed on that particular table for follow-up and follow-through. By the time the doctors make the rounds with the respective city officials, and again, it's not just a Palatka issue, it's a countywide issue. However, if you don't target the existing water systems for enhancements first, and the awareness and the education and implementation, all of those things must reach into each of our households. And so I'm going to pretty much defer and say I think logic will be a proper forum, at least to monitor and to keep up with the progress is there. Are there any other commissioner comments?
I just had a question. I understand about the fluoridation in the community water system and how important that is. Since so much of our county does not have central water, what does the system of swishing with fluoride, like in school, how does that work? Or is there a danger of getting too much fluoride in your system? I just would like to know your opinion on that.
Dr. Johnson, if you'll come. Thank you, Commissioner Harris.
Commissioner, the program you're speaking of is one that unfortunately fell by the wayside in our state and is no longer available. And the reason that it fell by the wayside is it was left up to individual schools. And then as testing, as we know, became more important, time crunches on teachers' time became very important. Some of the things they didn't have to do, and it was up to a school principal. And I'm not talking, this is just a fact of the matter. It was a once-a-week rinse, and it was a concentrated formula of fluoride that they would swish in a little cup. And as the young lady was saying, once a week you would swish with it, spit it back in the cup, and then stuff your napkin in it, and you would dispose of it. You aren't to swallow it. Could you, if you swallowed it, could you get too much fluoride? Yes, but it was obvious to the teachers that it was coming back in the cup when that purple solution was there, and it was all sucked up with a paper towel. Just doing a quick Google search, about half of your county is on community water systems. So about 30-something thousand out of Putnam County's 2013 numbers, over 72,000 residents, 72,577. So about half of your county, including Black, are on community water systems. It's also important that those on well water have their wells tested for fluoride. That's not part of the routine testing that's done when your water is tested for all the other items that are in it. It has to be requested, and the reason is that there are wells in the state that have fluoride in them naturally at half or more than what optimal is considered to be. So for someone to say that they didn't have cavities just because they're on a well is not always accurate. I mean, certainly good hygiene, good diet, all of those things factor into it. But water fluoridation to half of your county, folks that are on the water systems, is huge. And then to remember that when these kids go to school, and they're going to be typically on a public water system and not on a well. Kids drink about half of their water intake at school, and we think, oh, really? Well, and I had to read the studies on that. Well, when they come in from PE, they're sucking down water to water fountain. There is also what's called a halo effect. Products, juices, different things, sodas, beer they don't take, but all the products within surrounding communities that are made with fluoridated water are in those products. So kids are getting and adults are getting fluoride in their diet naturally. They're getting it from toothpaste, and we don't want the kids to swallow it. Tea has fluoride in it naturally. Peas have fluoride in it naturally. Fluoride is the 13th most abundant element in the Earth's crust. So just growing groceries in the ground, they're going to have it in it. What we're talking about is a little addition to help get it to the optimal amount to help prevent cavities. So it is something that, again, back to your question, the switch works. It doesn't work as well as fluoridated water, and it only works the 9 months the kids are in school. You got 3 months when they're not in school, and again, it's not being done in the school system, sadly, because you could still do that in addition to fluoridation. You could use toothpaste in addition to fluoridation, use a mouth rinse with fluoride in addition. They're all beneficial. They all add a little more protection.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
Dr. Johnson
Yes, sir.
pretty much just answered my question with the fascination of bottled water that we have as a society today. I wondered how much amount, you just answered it beautifully, but overall the role of the health department, the role they should play in the community, I think is one to get that information out, and then individuals that don't advocate for fluoride can make a choice, and those that do can. And I mean, I feel strongly about that. Based on what you just said, it's everywhere, but nobody knows that. They really don't. So wouldn't that be a good role for our health department to play, to get it out that you know, you must have a balanced diet and this sort of thing. Dr. Jump is so right. I see cavities everywhere. In my own family, something's wrong, and we have to correct it. And thank you for being here today.
Sure. If I might add, it is a wonderful message to get out. It is a very difficult message to get out. It is one where, as elected officials, we are the decision makers in Florida. Other communities, it's boards of health, on and on throughout the country. But as decision makers, we decide, and I'm saying as a commissioner, we decide whether to put in traffic lights in an intersection for the safety and well-being of our community. We decide to place chlorine in the water. We go on and on with our health decisions without asking others in the community to make those decisions, and that's because we depend on our experts to give us that information, and that's what we come back with. I mean, we're elected to make the tough decisions. We can't ask everyone else to make the decisions for us. The health department and the dentist, every time they've got someone in the chair, they've got a captive audience. They are teaching and preaching to them. But over half of the population in this country, and unfortunately in communities in our state, less than half go to a dentist on a regular basis. We are 50th in the nation in dental care to our Medicaid children, 50th.
Oh.
That's pitiful.
Sure. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Dr. Johnson, thank you for such a wonderful presentation.
Pleasure.
My question to you was similar to what Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Liable talked to you about. It seems to me the target would be a whole lot easier because most of our county is in private wells, if you will. And I'm sorry about my microphone. I think I just got
Thought it was me.
No, I think something happened. It's okay, I'll continue on. But you said there was a once-a-week rinse that the children could do, and we could do that in our schools, probably churches, organizations, things in that nature. What is the cost comparison? Have you done any studies on what it would cost just the facilities Putnam County runs versus doing a once-a-week rinse? Have you looked at any of that?
The studies have been done for your community your size, to fluoridate the water for 1 year cost about $1 per person. There are the alternatives of using rinses, of doing other methods, trying to get prescriptions, getting people to take a prescription, which there are tablets. And Dr. Jump will tell you there's good literature on this. Even antibiotics, prescriptions are only taken about 1/3 of the time. And that means that you go to the doctor, you go to the pharmacy, you have the money to buy it, you take it home, you give it to your family member, and they take it. There is 30% or so of the folks that get it, and I'm guilty if it was off of my kitchen table because my wife picked it up and put it away. A bottle of tablets that should have lasted 4 months lasted 8 months. And it's just, and I'm a dentist, these things go on. It's just easier and cheaper to drink the water. Okay. If it's only, again, if it's only half of your community that is benefiting from it and you reduce cavities by 25% minimum, that's a huge reduction in your expenditures.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't, one more follow-up.
Yes, sir.
What would the cost of the rents be for the other people that are not on private wells per se? So at schools, you know, I hate to say identify the children that live in private wells, but that's where I'm kind of going with this. So what does that cost?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, it is. I know that's more than $1 per person per year, but it could be used by folks that are on well systems or not. And you really, I mean, this in our society these days, we don't want to call anybody out for anything, so we would give it to everyone, and it could be used. But also remember those kids, which is good. It's an addition. When they're at school, they're on a public water supply. They're getting fluoridated water, so they're getting half of what they should have. The other half would be at home, but it's better than nothing.
Well, I don't think all of our schools are on public water supply. I think there's some that are on their own wells.
Mm-hmm.
And could that be added to those private water systems?
Absolutely.
It can be. Okay, thank you.
The cost may be a prohibitive factor, but absolutely. In North Carolina, when I did my training, that was something that was done on a school basis. They would give them at an increased amount. Instead of 1 part per million, they may take it to 2 parts per million because you're getting your water during the school day. So you're doubling up for half of the water you're getting. So that 2 divided by the other half you don't get at home, you're getting an average of 1 milligram of fluoride per day in the water.
Let me interrupt briefly. Let's continue the process.
Yes,
continue with the municipalities. Obviously, there are 5 municipalities in the county, and also with the school district. And I think the various community groups that need this, I mean, the word is certainly going to circulate. And then I think logic would be where I would say the follow-up should come, maybe through that mechanism. And Mrs. Garcia can certainly share that information as it relates to when we can do the follow-up. Okay, thank you again so much for being here, and thank everyone for your participation.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Very quickly, because I am moving the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
Karen Chadwick, 179 West Strickland Road, Interlochen. I just had a couple of questions and concerns. I read that the fluoride is a toxic byproduct from the phosphate industry, and that's where it comes from, and that's what some of the fears are about. Is it's a toxic product. It's a way for the phosphate industry to get rid of it. I've also read that too much fluoride can sort of cauterize the pituitary gland, and that's where the lowered IQ theory comes from, that it affects the brain. So I think that should be looked into. And unless I missed something, did they compare the carry rates between people with their own wells and people on the city water that were getting the fluoride? I think those last photographs could be, it's apples and oranges. It could be misleading. I could pull that off of the internet and put that together myself, and I'm certainly no dentist. It looks like the what they call the Mountain Dew smile, where the kids up in the Ozarks drink a lot of Mountain Dew and it rots their front teeth out. It reminds me of that picture. Also, why was it removed in 2011? I think that's worth reviewing. Why was that decision made?
That discussion will come up at the city commission meeting, not this meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm just curious if Dr. Johnson is being paid by, if he's the co-chair of the Fluoride Action Group, is he being paid by them to go around and promote this industry?
I think he can speak to that, and I'm sure he will be willing to speak to that. But thank you
Okay,
so much for
thanks.
those observations. Thank each of you very kindly for your commentary. Item 6 on the agenda is Mark Hadlick, Jones Edmonds and Associate Task Order Number 105, $95,900, Central Landfill Mining Construction Services. And as they come to the front, welcome this morning, and you have our attention.
Morning, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have Mr. Boudreau with our office here in case you ask any really hard questions that I need his help with. We are here today in support of a extension of our proposal for an additional $95,000 as a result of additional work that needs to be done associated with the landfill mining project. And we felt like this would be a good time to update the board as to the status of the landfill mining project. There's been a lot of interest in that particular job. To backtrack a little bit and remind everybody what the project is about, it was to excavate 15 acres of the old Phase 1 landfill to a depth of approximately 20 feet deep for two primary reasons. One was to eliminate the source of contamination at the north end of the Phase 1 landfill, and to also lay the groundwork for the next expansion of the next cell. And that project is going along very well. The contractor is Phillips in Jordan. They're doing a very good job. A couple of the measures of success is that only 30% of the material that's coming out of the ground needs to go back into the Class 1 landfill. That means a 70% diversion rate of soils that could otherwise be used by the county and will offset future costs. That project is about 75% complete at this time. It started just about a year ago. The schedule was a year. There's been a couple of things that have occurred on the landfill mining project. You know, we make our best estimates as engineers as to what we're going to find. You know, we can't see through the ground, but we're familiar with landfills, and generally we know what to expect to find. And we did a pretty good job anticipating that. We did find a couple of things in quantities that we weren't quite anticipating, and one was a lot of used tires. We originally estimated that quantity to be in the hundreds of tons. We're finding them in the thousands of tons. So as a result, the contractor is having to do more work.
I put them there.
You put them there. It's an unprecedented.
I have to correct you again, they're not used, they're junk tires.
I see. It's an unprecedented amount of tires, is all I can say. So the contractor is having to do more work to pick up the tires, clean them off, process them, and grind them. And and the other item that is in a larger quantity than you anticipated is asbestos-containing material, or ACM. And this is typically pipes, insulation, tiles, things along those lines. That only has a relatively small amount of asbestos in them, but it has to be handled carefully in accordance to regulations. And that has slowed down the process a little bit to make sure that all of that is being done in accordance. And as a result, we've had to be on the job a little bit more than we anticipated. We're anticipating giving the contract about 4 to 6 more weeks to complete the work, and additional money as well. Another good point about that, though, is the project was originally budgeted at $2.5 million. This current contract is just under $2 million. But the contractor has legitimately done more work based on some unanticipated materials at the landfill. Take any questions you might have,
Thank you so
sir.
much. Mr. Gass, do you have any information to,
Yes, I have a question.
Got one here too.
okay, let me let him make some comments, and then we'll go to Commissioner Harris.
Yes, we tried to guess what was under the ground, and we didn't. And it appears that every neighboring county has sent their waste tires to Putnam County, or else everybody's been changing tires 4 times a year on their vehicles, because I just do not know where so many tires could be generated from. And it's not like it was a tire pit that was, you know, this is where we'll take all the tires for 10 years. It was spread out throughout the excavation. So it was a major impact in the operation of the mining.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes, I just had a question about what was found. Did you find something that was the source of the contamination, particularly the benzene? Did tires cause that? Or did you find anything that would
tires are made out of a petroleum product. They could have some type of an effect on it. We did find some decayed and rotting drums that were there. That would have been absorbed into some other stuff, but they were non-identifiable. There was no identifiable hazardous waste that was found. There were some tanks that were rotted out that were found. There were dredging equipment that was found that had been buried. I don't know if it was used. I believe we had a sandblast barge that was there used for sandblasting ships and barges and stuff. So we found a lot of things that could have some contamination type effect, but they were not a regulated waste. They were not a regulated hazardous waste.
Mr. Gass, scrap iron, something salvageable that we can get an income out of return. What percentage is that?
When I last looked at the
Give-
number, I haven't looked at it recently, it was over 300,000 pounds of metals that had been pulled out of the mining process.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question. You said that we were under budget of $2.5 million. Was that correct?
That was the engineering estimate.
Okay. Didn't the Board of County Commissioners sign a contract with Phillips Jordan for $1.8 million?
1.9, I believe is what it was.
So where does the others, I like numbers, so I apologize.
The engineering estimate for the mining was 2.5 million.
So the 600,000 come out of your budget?
So that's what we had budgeted was for that, and it ended up being less than that. But then the additional costs are going to be closer probably to the 2.5 estimate.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments.
If I could, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gass, real quick. For the, just clarification on the tires, when you're bringing them out of the pit, and that's what it was back then, a linear pit, and you have to clean them up, so there's an additional cost associated with that cleanup before they can be ground and recycled and sold. So if you could just elaborate on how much, do you know how much that might represent? I drove out quite a few times now and looked at the tires.
We originally were spending a lot of effort trying to clean them to a high enough level that they could be sent back to Bartow, to the Wheelabrator plant. We basically couldn't get them to a level that would be acceptable. Basically, that's an incinerator, and there was just way too much dirt and sand in it. So basically what we did is we placed them through the screening process, which has got these vibrator screens, and it shakes most of the accessible dirt. It would just be too cost prohibitive to try to take them, turn them upside down, bounce them at an angle, turn them back, bounce them at an angle, turn them 90 degrees, bounce them, try to get everything out of the insides. So we basically tried to get out what mechanically could be removed at an easy rate. And then the grinding process takes care of the rest of it. Once it's ground and shred the tires, then it releases that sand material. And all the grinding and stuff was done at the working face of the landfill.
Okay. Any further questions? You've heard the presentation on the need for this task order number 105. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
We have
Second.
2 motions and 2 seconds. Been properly moved in second that the task order be approved as presented and authorized. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very kindly. Item 7, Bob Taylor, amendment to the AIA contract with Yvonne Rivers, $670,350, setting the guaranteed maximum price for the Boswick Volunteer Fire Department project. Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Bob Taylor. Glad to be here today.
Good to see you, sir.
About 6 months ago, this commission approved proceeding with the construction manager, Yvonne Rivers, and using our firm to continue to develop the drawings and specifications for a new Fire Department at Bostwick. That process has taken about 6 months, where we evaluated the construction, got a little bit more information, or actually significant more information about the site development, and completed those documents, working with Vaughn Rivers and Mark Stoschke, the project manager, are now prepared to proceed with the amendment, which is Exhibit A, an amendment which would adopt the gross, or the guaranteed maximum price, which is $670,350, so that the contractor, construction manager in this case, could proceed with construction. That's where we are today. Are there any questions?
Thank you for staying the course. Bostwick needs a fire department. It's been a long time.
It has been. Thank you, sir.
What's the square footage of this building gonna be, Mr. Taylor?
The building's about 5,000 square feet.
There was a lot of extra cost, Mr. Bob, with the site preparation, and if you could just give an overview of the water management's suggestion, or their opinion on what we needed to do to bring that into compliance.
Good. Initially, we did not anticipate that there would be wetlands on the site. As we developed the drawings and specifications, we determined that there was wetlands. This caused us to have to move the building forward closer to Tillman Street. We elevated the building, and there were certain measures that had to be included in the civil drawings to provide for dissipating the surface water through the retention pond. Elevating the site, elevating the pond, and providing for a pervious sand that would allow it to percolate and basically create a dry pond, which is the current design, did cost additional money. That was the essence of it. The permit application to the Water Management District, once that design was completed, was fairly simple. It's been submitted and approved by the Water Management District. That part of their job is ready to proceed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the differential in the overall description of work, as it relates to the facility that is being constructed itself, there were no surprises there. The surprise is
The
basically...
building itself, Commissioner Flagg, was fairly straightforward, and its basic design changed very little from what we did at the 50% phase, which is what we proposed or submitted around June of last year. Most of the work centered around what we had to do to develop the site to accommodate the wetlands, elevating the building, reducing the paving, doing things with reference to fire protection and life safety. The fire protection and life safety was complicated somewhat because Bostwick does not have a public water supply. And of course, this is an essential service facility, and it requires a fire sprinkler system within the building, and to have a reserve quantity of water was somewhat complicated. Again, it's an essential service facility. It requires a generator to make sure that it can operate on 24/7 through cooperation with Clay Electric. We were able to establish that level of life safety protection. It increased power to the building. The building literally has two separate services, one to provide service to the generator and to the fire pump should there be a fire that it would take care of putting the fire out. The other generator is to operate the building in times of emergency services.
Thank you very kindly. Further commissioner comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few.
Commissioner Harvey.
I kind of got an eye-opening discussion with our attorney yesterday. We spent about an hour together going over the June 10th meeting and this, and I want to say this publicly. I want this fire department in every community in Putnam County, and especially in Bostwick. But going back to the June 10th meeting, when you presented Yvonne Rivers, they were a construction manager that was hoping to bring the project in under $350,000, as you basically, I don't want to say testified, but you alluded to at that meeting that they had done work previously in the county, and that's why they were picked, because of their qualifications. But you did say $350,000.
$350,000 was the desired goal.
Right, and now if you take out the site preparations, we're still $500,000 for a building out there. And this isn't the total price, is it? Because there are your fees and other fees added to this number. So Well, if we approve this today, which I really support, we're talking over $700,000 probably, because we still have to pay Yvonne Rivers for the work they did. We still have to pay you for the work you did. Is that correct?
Yeah, my fee is in addition to that, and the $670,000 is a guaranteed maximum price.
For the building, but we still hired Yvonne Rivers to be the construction manager up front, and that's not included in this price, is it?
It is included. Their fee is included in the $670,000.
The reason I say that is because on June 10th, after that meeting, I was really trying to learn how the government operates. And I was referred back to the EOC building, the storage facility over there. They had done that work over there, and they had kept it in budget of around $350,000. But in all truth, the building, that whole project, there was a change order for a ramp, so I do understand that. But it was $482,000 was the total cost when we got rebarb and insulation and roll-up doors and things like that. I just really want to get a handle. I would support this wholeheartedly, but it seemed like we knew we probably couldn't go for $350, and now we're looking at $670, and that's really not the total cost. What do you think the total cost would be when your fee and Yvonne Rivers' fee is added to that?
Well, again,
Yvonne
Yvonne.
Rivers' fee is included in the 670 on page 45.
Okay.
Yeah, their fee is included in that price. And it is intended to be a total price, including site work, the electrical that's required to power the building, those types of things. And our fee is separate from that. It is additional from that. So, around $700,000 would be probably the total cost of the project to date. I mean,
Chief, you have something to add, sir?
Commissioner Quinn Romay with Emergency Services. I just wanted to address the EOC project. The entire project, not being laborers over the entire project, we initially went out for a hard bid for that project. The bid came in at for the building, just construction. It came in at $541,400. We didn't have the money. We knew my team knew that was not something that was realistic, so we rejected those bids. We went back to the construction manager process with Bob's help, and this process has been used in a number of different things, not to mention the school board, Duval County, and so forth. So we didn't invent the process we're using. When we engaged Vaughn Rivers for the EOC project, that GMP came in at $370,000, the ultimate for the building. The project itself was reduced through what I call value engineering and changing colors and things that didn't compromise the project. So, I mean, we fully intend to continue the value engineering process throughout this whole thing. And just a side note on this project, we engaged Bob back in November of 13. So we've had numerous meetings. All of that will be provided on the public records request, but we'll certainly continue to strive to get
Thank
this
you so much,
going.
Commissioner Harvey. Anything else?
I'm fine,
Commissioner
sir.
Pelletier?
Thank you.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Lible?
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
We have a proper motion on the floor.
Second.
Second, to set the guaranteed maximum price for the Boswick Volunteer Fire Department project. Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Jeff Rawls, 1100 Carr Street, Palatka, Florida. I wanted to be here last year on the 10th. I had a meeting with the Veterans Administration in Tampa that we couldn't get away from. One of the questions I asked Mr. Taylor was, what is the total cost of the project going to be? His answer was about $700,000 to date. That includes the GMP, plus I'm assuming $30,000 in pre-construction efforts by Mr. Taylor and Vaughn Rivers. The question that was asked was, what is his anticipated total cost to date? Now, we let the cat out of the bag way early on. I told Mr. Castleberry before the decision was made to award it this project that y'all were looking at a $600,000 elephant. That was let out 6 months ago. My concern is the way the county procures contracts does not seem to be the most efficient, where you engage an architect and start paying him when you can actually get these services for free by going pure on design build. This is not a hybrid design build. This is pure construction management. You hire an architect who says, well, I think we can build it for $350,000, in light of the fact that he had just completed a very similar building without the site conditions for $500,000. Then you throw the site conditions on top of that, and it's growing. My projection is you're $780,000 to $800,000 when this thing's completed. But the real way to save money in this poorest county in Florida is to go full-on design build. You get somebody like a company like my company that comes in and says, here's what we will do. We will provide you with full-on design services, a full-on budget, not a gross maximum price. We're going to give you a flat price. We can't waver from that because it's our design. Unless there's an unforeseen condition like Jimmy Hoffa's body buried or an Indian mound that's not disclosed or wetlands that wasn't delineated, other than that, you're going to get the building for whatever the contract is for, and you don't have to pay anything up front to get it. Because if the county decides right now that this $800,000 project in round numbers is too rich for their blood, you have already paid $30,000 to stick your toe in the water. And you could have done that for free. You could have chlorinated everybody in Putnam County for I don't know how many times over for that money. But all joking aside, we do not have the most efficient way of procuring contracts. It's very scattered. I did have a meeting with Mr. Leary regarding this very bid process where we were the low bidder. We submitted a percentage that was lower than an out-of-town contractor by half. And there was no interviews conducted, even though the bid process called for interviews. I was told by Maureen Torma that by accident, they negotiated with Yvonne Rivers to lower their cost. So you negotiated with an out-of-town contractor. That upsets me, obviously, but that's not why I'm here. What I'm trying to tell you is you guys do not have the most efficient way. We work with a lot of agencies, Clay County, St. Johns County School System, Putnam County School Systems, Duval County, the Port Authority of Duval County. They do have a lot higher level of sophistication in their procurement, and it saves them tons of money. We just completed $300,000 worth of work for the Jacksonville Port Authority. 6 companies made offerings under a design build to put canopies at the cruise terminal. Obviously, we were selected, and we performed very well. And we brought the project in at the contracted amount. It didn't matter if it cost us $100,000 more, we were gonna have to eat it. If it cost us $100,000 less, we just make the money. But my point is the Jacksonville Port Authority had drawings. We hired an architect that did our drawings. They had everything up front, and it didn't cost 1 red cent.
Okay, so your point is our procurement policy needs some revisions.
Well, if nothing else, if you would just follow your procurement policy to the letter, that would be helpful to the local vendors. But I think what I would ask the commission to do is consider having a task force meeting where you invite companies that are local to come in and participate in a restructuring of a procurement plan that would be a little bit more flexible for the county and the taxpayers to save money. As a taxpayer, I'm doing a project right now with the fairgrounds where we offered a tax savings to the county. And Maureen Torma came back and said, no, we would never do a tax savings for anything over $25,000. We offered $8,000 in tax savings to the fair committee. And because the county said no, we can't give them that $8,000. But what we were able to do for this particular job is we took a look at what an electrical or mechanical engineer had proposed for air conditioning. And we doubled the cost of the installation for the building, which reduced the sizing, tonnage of the equipment by almost half. And we brought the project down to over $25,000 to get it into budget. This is not a design build, and it's not contract management. This is just a contractor coming up to the county saying, look, we see some problems with your design professionals and what they've designed. And based on our experiences in the past, this is what you can do. Mr. Taylor's a very competent, very smart man. I've worked projects with him in the past. But what I'm saying is he is not the beginning and the end of knowledge of everything. And the more exposure that Putnam County offers itself to other design professionals, other contractors, the more of a look you're going to get at saving money. Okay. But I would like to hear the question answered. If my understanding to date is that this project is pre-construction efforts to date are at $30,000, is that correct?
It's less than that.
Less than $30,000. Then I would keep my eye on what the post-construction and the during construction efforts cost you. Because that's where the devil's in the details, and that's where you're gonna spend money as well. So you don't spend that kind of money on pre-construction efforts when you're doing design build. It's all given to you 100% lock, stock, and barrel. If you don't like the offering, and by the way, they give you the design. You just say, we need a 5,000 square foot pre-engineered metal building. The word pre-engineered metal building, PEMB, is used every day. You buy the building with engineering. You don't need an architect for that part of it. They also come with foundation engineering if you want to pay the extra for that. You do need an engineer to tie the two together. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing can be done by engineers. You don't even need an architect for a building like this. This is a $600,000 building. That's all it is. It's not a huge building. My understanding is it's supposed to be a cookie cutter for the county. I would love, as a former firefighter, I would love to see Putnam County go full-on paid fire rescue and have a fire department in every community, like Larry said. And this could be a really good possibility for the county. I think you're paying a little bit too much, in my opinion, but I'm not the one calling the shots. But on the next one, you might want to reconsider your procurement efforts.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Jerry,
Rawls.
can I ask a question? What project was it you were talking about where you were the low bidder?
Which one?
I don't know. You mentioned one where I think you said you were 50% lower than an out-of-town company. You don't remember saying that 3 or 4 minutes ago?
That was 50% lower?
Was it Jacksonville?
No, I said Yvonne Rivers. See, what happened was, can I elaborate?
Which project?
This one.
And you're talking about the bid you made for your construction
We
manager?
responded to a request.
Can I finish my question?
Go ahead.
Are you talking about what you bid for your construction manager fee?
Yes.
And you were lower than they were?
Yes.
But you understand that we don't consider price as part of the evaluation process?
What I
Don't
was
you
told,
understand
what
that?
I was told by Maureen Torma. and
Don't
by
you
Mr.
understand
Leary.
that that's against state law to do that?
I'm telling you it happened. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. This is what really happened.
Okay.
We both submitted proposals.
Mhm.
We were both on time. Both proposals were considered. We didn't hear anything for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
My project manager made a phone call. He called me up and said, hey, have you heard anything about this? I said, no. He called Maureen Torm up and said, are we going to hear anything? She said, oh, I thought the architect would have notified you. We've selected your competitor. He called me up and I said, I got frustrated. I said, why would they select an out-of-town contractor? So I called Maureen Torm up and she said, well, it came down to they've built a fire station. I said, well, it's kind of ironic that my project manager and I were both paramedic firefighters, but that's fine. She said, and I said, well, what about the price consideration? She said, well, we contacted Yvonne Rivers and asked them if they would lower their price to meet yours. And the answer was no. He would come down to 4% instead of 3% over cost. Now, Yvonne Rivers is a very capable company. I have nothing bad to say about them. I don't know. In my research, I see their signs around town up in Jacksonville, but they're mobilizing from the Jacksonville area, not from 1100 Carr Street. So right off the bat, your cost of construction went up because your mobilization efforts start in Jacksonville. If I'm boring
Okay,
you, I'll
I
stop.
really don't want a
understand.
sermon,
Okay.
Mr. Rawls. I
But-
have
but
a
the-
couple of questions.
You asked the question, the answer is.
Hold up.
Okay.
Do you understand
Hold up,
that?
excuse me, counsel, excuse me 1 second.
I'm sorry.
It will not be back and forth.
Right.
Questions that are asked still should be addressed to this commission. And we're gonna bring this to closure, so I want concluding comments and no additional questions if the question has been answered.
Wait, well,
Okay.
to finish
And
what
I'd
I'm
like
saying.
to call a question.
We requested a meeting with Mr. Leary and Ms. Torma to explain to us why, number one, the procurement policy was not followed through with, because the bid offering also said that interviews would be conducted. Did not say maybe, it said it would be. So then after meeting with Mr. Leary, the following Monday, Friday, I get a phone call from Maureen saying, when would you like to meet? But at that point, it doesn't matter. They've already seen the price. You cannot unring the bell when everybody knows everything. And whether it's, I don't care if it's a violation of law or not, I'm not here to argue that. All I'm trying to say is, I don't think the county has the best procurement policy for the taxpayers. I don't think that my tax dollar, and laugh if you want, but
No, I
my
will.
tax dollars are not best spent with.
All right,
this
thank you
kind of
so much,
procurement
Mr. Rawls. Council, again, this commission will have opportunity to speak with council, speak with our administrator and our procurement director so that we can just follow the process and it's not about this one project, it's about all the projects.
Exactly.
We'll have that set up. Yes, sir, council.
But you understand that there was a committee that ranked Von Rivers ahead of you, and they did that before they looked at your price proposals.
I was not told that. What I was told was.
You understand it now that that's the case?
No, I don't understand it.
Well, Mr. Taylor, can you get up there and tell him?
That is the case.
That has no bearing on what I'm saying, okay? And the back and forth in the peanut gallery would not happen if there was no back and forth. I would love to sit here and look at just this, but the relationship that I have with your council is not great. The comments that I made to Mr. Leary and Ms. Torma, when we found out that we were being overlooked, the scoring went it was 83 points to 87 points, 4 points separated. The question was, did you have two capable companies? The answer was yes. One local, one out of town. I'm not saying you have to hire local contractors. And what I told Mr. Leary too is if it's the county's intention to not work with my company, we won't waste our time. As we drive north to go to work in Jacksonville and Yvonne and Rivers drive south to come to Palatka, we'll pass each other. And that's what happens on a daily basis. And it doesn't do anything for the economic development of the people that pay the taxes and the payroll for everybody that sits in this room.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls, and thank you all for the dialogue. Just always remember, as long as I'm the chair, there will be order in all of our meetings, and there will also be civility. That is not negotiable in any of these meetings, and that goes for everybody that's under the sound of my voice. That's how we're gonna roll in Putnam County.
Call the question.
I hope that's clear. Question has been called. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 3, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you so very kindly. County Administrator, item 8.
I don't have anything beyond the appointments that are listed for
Okay.
consideration.
District 2, do you have,
I do, sir.
okay,
And I will get with you, Ms. Tabby. Aaron Fortner
okay.
is willing to serve on the Better Place Oversight Committee for District 2.
District 5, do you have an appointee?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Miss Jenny Robbins, or
Okay.
Mrs. Jenny Robbins,
okay.
is going to be replacing Mr. Bates. on
Okay,
the
we have a
budget.
District 2 and District 5 nominations to the Better Place Plan Oversight Committee. Further discussion, put those in the form of a motion, please.
I move approval that we accept
Second.
those.
We have a proper motion and a second. Further discussion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you so much. And let's make sure that we appreciate those who have served, whose term expired this past December. On the Citizens Advisory Task Force for the CDBG Community Development Block Grant, those appointments are very important. I think we had one young lady that had served there. Is that Miss Asia?
Cynthia Asia.
Cynthia Asia. I'd certainly like to place her name in nomination to, that way we do have that one appointee back in. Can I entertain a motion to that effect?
So moved.
We have a proper motion.
Second.
Second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. We do need to get that task force, and that needs to be a priority, commissioners, for our next meeting, to get that task force so they can be kind of brought up to speed as to what is before them. Anything else, Mr. Leary?
No, sir. Thank
Mr. Castleberry?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
We have no items, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner, Deliberation Commissioner Harvey, anything else?
I have none, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelosi, anything else?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Lible, anything else?
End of January. What's going on in the community? Air show this Saturday.
Yes.
K. Larkin Field, Palatka Municipal Airport.
All right,
Be there, be square.
all right. Commissioner Hess.
We have a groundbreaking on Wednesday
Yes.
for our jail at 1:30.
Yes, we have a groundbreaking for the Putnam County Jail, and no breaking in, just breaking ground, right? Let's do
Or
that.
breaking out.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I did miss something. Last Saturday, myself and Commissioner Harris and Commissioner Palacier went down to Crescent City, Middleton Bernie School, where the Crescent City Rotary Club raised approximately $70,000 for a new playground for that school, and they fed us, brunch, if you will.
Wow.
And but it was nice to see that community really come together. They named it after a gentleman in Rotary, Mr. Jody Braddock, who passed away from an unfortunate heart issue as a young man. So it was a very moving ceremony. It was very well dedicated, and Commissioner Palacier represented you well, sir.
Thank you. That's good news. I want to say again, on behalf of your county commissioners, thank you so much for your endurance, for your participation in the democratic process as we seek to make our community better. We also applaud our community during the time of crises that we have experienced over the past few weeks, how the community does rise up in time of crisis to work together. So may God continue to bless America and bless us all. This meeting is adjourned.